Herbert Mensah, the newly elected president of Rugby Africa, has called for a change of mindset from the World Rugby and African governments. Speaking a few days ago at the Bloomberg New Economic Gateway Africa, Mensah says the world of rugby perceives Africa as one of big impoverished country. The Rugby Africa chief added that rugby business is big and that the continent should showcase its value and change its approach. Now, on the ways in which things are changing is the appointment of the founder and chairman of the APO group, Nicolas Pompigne-Mognard. Is a special advisor now to the Rugby Africa president. Nicolas, good to see you again via this WebEx chat tonight. Congratulations on your new appointment. Great to have you here on the show.
Thank you very much, Watson. Thank you.
We appreciate it. It's good to have you. Now, I want to ask you, what's your favorite sports? Let's talk about it at the end of the interview. What are your thoughts around the business of sports in Sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, it is as big as it gets. The global sport market is expected to grow to $624 billion by 2027. So $624 billion. So this is huge. And so Africa is part of the world, and you have many international events, even more events than ever, which are coming to the African continent. Africa will host in the coming years the very first Olympic competition with the Olympic Youth Games in 2026 in Senegal. We have Rwanda, which is hosting the UCI Road Cycling World Championship. We have the Cricket World Cup, which will be hosted jointly by South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe in 2027, and so many other international events like Jeux de la Francophonie, Africa Cup of Nations, Africa Games, etc., etc. So, Africa is slowly taking its share, claiming its share of that huge sport market. There is a huge potential. I think we are only at the beginning, really. But you see also more and more African countries bidding to host more and more international events. So, for instance, South Africa recently announced that they were bidding to host the FIFA Women World Cup. Egypt, which, 3-4 months ago announced that they were bidding to host the Olympic Games. And of course, this is, the bidding, those are country bidding to host events. But what we see when we are discussing with Ministry of Sport, traveling to countries, is that there are several more and more African countries which are interested and actually betting on sport tourism. They have strategies to attract tourists through sport. They calculate, well, if I'm bidding towards that competition, is going to bring that number of tourists, and each tourist will spend that amount of money in my hotels, in my restaurants. They're going to visit my national park, etc., etc. So sport tourism is becoming extremely big. You have countries now on the African continent which have very advanced, very calculated strategies towards sport. I'm referring to Morocco, for instance, which is merging education and sports, which are really a national sports strategy. I'm referring to Rwanda, for instance, which became a beacon when it's come to attracting sports event and hosting sports event. I'm thinking about the final of the Basketball Africa League. But as you may know, Rwanda hosted only a few months ago the FIFA Congress, elective FIFA Congress. So sport is a big business. There is no doubt about that. It's a business which is growing. As I said, 624 billion in a couple of years, and Africa has a lot of potential in that area for sure.
So, do you think rugby, speaking specifically to rugby, do you think rugby is becoming a major competitor to major sports like football on the continent?
Well, football is football, if you ask me. Football will remain football, but when you look at the second fastest growing game on the continent, this is rugby. Rugby is played in 37 countries across the continent. You have 37 countries of the continent which are affiliated to Rugby Africa and World Rugby. Obviously, we all know that the current World Cup winner is African. This is South Africa. But you have very powerful countries in the world of rugby, either Rugby 15 or Rugby 7. Morocco is a powerhouse of Rugby 15. Kenya is a powerhouse of Rugby 7. We have great athletes, and that's where you referred to the discussion Herbert Mensah, the newly elected president of Rugby Africa, had with Bloomberg. The discussion is around the fact that Africa need more investment. African rugby need more investment, because currently those incredibly talented rugby players, they tend to go play for European countries, just like same dynamic as the Basketball Africa League. We need to organize, we need to invest in the sport on the continent to make sure the athletes, which are some of the best athletes in the world, can stay on African soil.
Okay, Nick, tell me very briefly about your new appointment as a special advisor to Rugby Africa president. What would it entail?
Well, listen, I'm basically opening doors, advising. In my position as the chairman of APO Group, I'm lucky that I have a huge ecosystem through APO Group. We are working with so many organizations, from African Development Bank to the European Development Bank to FIFA, to NBA, to DHL, etc., including the Vatican. And so what I'm doing is that I'm basically putting my network and a little bit of my time at the service of the development of African rugby, because I think African rugby can offer the continent, role models, can participate to the development of the continent. So I think it's the right thing to do.
It's a great thing to do, and great to have you on the board of Rugby Africa. Thank you so much for your time. Have a pleasant evening. It's a public holiday here in Lagos. Mognard, thank you so much. Nicholas Pompigne-Mognard, the founder and chairman of the APO Group.